like, comment, and subscribe.
Hello, my name is Liselotte. I'm from Norway. And my question to IKYA is, what exactly is memory? What is the purpose of memory, if any? I can, for example, remember things from my childhood, and other people remember more or less the same. And I can even kind of remember things from, for example, my mother's or grandparents' lives that they have told me long before I was born. And what is it? And I think about the conversation with IKYA and the psychologist about consciousness coming before time, space, and matter. And then I thought, is that the reason why sometimes siblings, for example, can have totally different memories about their childhood and parents? Like it appears sometimes like they came from different planets and different realities. And also, what is the spiritual purpose or reason when people lose their memory? For example, people with dementia, where they often remember things from their childhood but not their own name or what they did 5 minutes ago. So memory is quite a mystery to me. So my question, as I said, is what is memory? Thank you very much.
The concept and topic of memories are quite interesting because it's not just one thing. We often think of memories as what is stored in our brain. And let's start with that. From the moment you're born, your brain will start absorb information. You need to develop survival skills. You need to develop your senses. You need to develop who you are and what you do in this world. And for that, you need memory. And memory is basically experienced sensory information organized on a timeline. And the brain stores all information. So basically, everything that you experience will be stored in your brain forever, and you will build on that. You have a type of memory that is connected more to the subconscious, and it will still teach you how to operate, but it's used as a backdrop. It's used to create the foundation of the conclusions and definitions you then use in order to understand how to think, feel, and act, and interact in the world. Then you have other types of memories that are more defined for you as an individual, understanding of yourself. So you have many different types of memories stored in your brain. What we often, though, refer to as memories are the memories that have a tendency to pop. The ones that come to us or the ones that are stuck in our minds. They're always connected to unresolved karma, unresolved experiences. And it means it represents our own resistance, that we've been in a situation and where we were in our experience, in our definitions of reality, and what life showed us. When that distance, the greater that distance is, the greater the shock will be. The greater that imprint will be. And it's also a signal that there is something here you need to figure out. Because we are to learn as spiritual beings how to be in harmony with life, being in rhythm, being in co-expression, without resistance. So all these points and experiences that we have where there is still resistance, where the things we haven't learned yet, that will kind of stick and become a layer of information telling you that you haven't figured this out yet. And this is basically the foundation of how we plan our future. I've expressed many times that if you see the here and now as a mirror, when you look into it, you will see your past reversed. And it's all the unresolved stuff that will become your future. I always say that ambition is a result of pain. It always starts with a negative thought. So, an example, if you have the experience of in childhood telling you that you are worthless, and you drew that conclusion, the logical thing, if you have a strong survival instinct, is say, I will show them. And then you will plan your future based on what you can do in order to establish that sense of worth and to show the world that you are valuable. That could be being famous, achieving certain things that you interpret as a way to show that level of value that will heal that experience. So everything we plan, everything we want to kind of project into that canvas of the future will be everything we have not resolved. And that is the purpose. It's to always detect where we are in disharmony and understand that, okay, how do I tune this? How do I move into a state of balance and harmony? And we do that in many different ways. As you know, we live, we try things out, we fall flat on our faces. Some things we're able to do, some things we're not. But overall, it pulls us forward. And as we do, we will create new experiences that will stick in our minds as things we haven't figured out. Because remember that we exist in a context. So when you are doing something you think you know how to do, you might be in context that at the same time will expose you to something you don't understand and where you have a lot of resistance. And that will become the new thing in your past that you then have to deal with in the future. So it kind of never stops, and it's very organic. And during a lifetime, you build and build and build and build based on, of course, how this life form works. The DNA, the setting, the planet, all of that, which filters you and your consciousness in a specific way and enables you to study yourself and your sense of reality from a very specific angle. So everything will be filtered through that. And that's why also it's necessary to go into many different settings, many different life forms and incarnations, because we need all of these different angles to understand ourselves and to understand reality. So that's one level, one type of memory. So it's both developing ourselves in a sense of the world and our skills and all of that and create harmony. Now, memory is more than that, because if we think of everything, every experience, everything ever happening will be stored, because everywhere, different levels of consciousness and life forms will be experiencing. So there will be multiple ways to experience any moment. And it is being experienced in many different ways, because you are being experienced by other people. And they will fit that experience into their own narrative. And that way of filtering then determines, how we see. And as the person asking the question mentioned, two people experiencing the exact same thing may have very different ways of remembering and may have very different stories. The reason for that is that the human brain is not concerned with truth. Never. We are subjective, and it's about our own survival, it's about our own needs. And we will filter and modify to create the narrative, the story that will support us as the hero or the victim or both. So we have an interest, self-interest, in remembering things a specific way. So we already have a default setting based on our needs, based on our story, what we want to achieve. The brain will filter information that way. Remember that you remember almost nothing. Because very little of what you actually are exposed to has any sort of relevance to you. When you walk down the street and you go home, you might not remember anything. And you've been exposed to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pieces of information, completely irrelevant to you, except for that one thing, that one person. That was relevant. So your brain is supposed to filter out almost everything except what your brain assumes will be helpful for your survival and development. So number one, we filter out almost everything. And on top of that, we filter it based on the preferred narrative. So it's not only the information, but the brain will then try to use it as a piece of furniture and say, okay, how do I want to use this to reinforce my narrative? So I need an angle. Just like a journalist, when they create a story, when they write something, they need an angle. It's the same thing. Different journalists on different sides of the political spectrum can report the same incident very differently. So there's that. So it's based on your bias, what you need to justify, your pains, your ambitions, all of that. And you will then twist the memory and emphasize certain aspects of it. And you will often, color it slightly and remember things conveniently, different from what actually happened. And when someone said something, you will hear what you want to hear. And that will, to you, be what happened. We interpret everything. This is why I say all memories are false. We never remember anything factual because our brains are not designed to do that. Storing information in the brain is about helping you survive. And a part of that is living with ourselves. Therefore, we are always the good person. We always have good intention. We only want what's good, and whenever we do something bad, it's justified. But other people, they have terrible intentions. It's that. We need to live with ourselves. And it's the same thing, for instance, when people are asked if they are better drivers than most, 80% or so say that they're better than average. It's that. We will always twist information to fit our narrative, so we cannot trust our memory as a source of facts. A memory is there to support our narrative and journey, two different things. So you should never believe that your memories are factual. And therefore you don't have to argue with people about who's right, because you're both wrong. The thing is that memories are not there to give you facts and truth. It's there to support your narrative, support your journey, and try to help you survive and climb the ladder of the hierarchy of life. So, beyond that, there is memory in the universe, as absolutely everything is being experienced by multiple levels of consciousness and beings and structures, always. So it means absolutely everything that ever happens will be stored in multiple angles. And spiritually, we can learn to tap into that. And this is what you also mentioned, that we can expand beyond the memories in our own brain and in our own biology, because everything is stored. Everything that ever happens is eternally. So as we expand, as we learn to move around in our own consciousness, we can tap into information, we can tap into memories. And yes, we can even experience memories through other people. And many of you have probably also had memories from other people without them having told you anything. You know, you can connect with them, and all of a sudden you can like see memories that are not yours. It's natural. We connect with information. Remember that we're first of all consciousness. We're spiritual beings. We express through forms in order to experience and explore and heal and grow. We're not limited to this. So how this life operates when it comes to memory, that's one thing. But you as consciousness, you're a lot freer and have a lot more flexibility and kind of playroom. So as many of you have experienced, when you expand spiritually for real, you relate to information in a different way. You can tap into memories and general information, and it's just there. And that will then be filtered through your brain. And this is also what we need to be aware of. Your brain is still biased. As long as you're in this thing, you're still biased. You still have your narrative. And it means even when we receive information, like from other people or just from an area or general information, it will be interpreted based on the narrative and our needs, and it will be distorted. It takes a lot of work to be able to go past that filtering. And we do that by learning how we filter, learning about our own bias, learning about our own resistance, and the stories that our ego is telling us. And gradually we can learn to kind of like, okay, this is what I need to subtract. I need to subtract that. I need to get that, and basically start filtering out the distortions and the like twists that your own ego kind of adds to the information. And then gradually you can move your consciousness also in your mind past the level of the ego. It takes a lot of work. So don't assume that we're just doing that because we're not. But exploring the mind and memories and information, I think is a natural part of growing spiritually. And therefore, also when we get older, as with dementia, for instance, Alzheimer's, whatever, where you start losing memory and your sense of self. And that's the thing, when you start losing your memory, which is basically what the brain uses to define who you are. This is what, with Alzheimer's, for instance, you see that the person gradually disappears. Because when you don't have access to the memories that define you, and if you can think that the moment, here and now, in a way is a point, is a space where the mind is projecting itself into. So your flow, your energy will kind of, if you think of like this incarnation, your flow do not move straight into the here and now. It moves, to the very beginning, and then it's being projected and filtered through your memories and everything you know and who you are and like all these stories, and then it moves into the here and now. And then This is also how you get a consistent experience of the here and now, because the flow goes through your entire history over and over and over and over again. So when that starts to dissolve and you just get a kind of blank projection into the here and now, your brain has no idea. And you start kind of losing your sense of the self. What's the purpose of that? Exactly this. For many people who have these kinds of degenerative changes in the brain, it is because they need to experience themselves without definitions and labels. For many people, it's going to be extremely painful, but as I'm sure many of you have experienced with parents, grandparents when it comes to this, is that they can move into a space where they also have a lot more freedom. They're not defined by their pain. They're not defined by their memories and the problems, and they can just be. And I've seen so many examples of older people then moving into the space of joy because they've forgotten all the pain. They've forgotten everything they're angry about. They don't even know who they are. So there's only the moment. And sometimes that can open the heart. Sometimes that can open the mind for that more direct flow. It doesn't happen with everyone, but I've seen it happen with a lot of people. It can have a wonderful transformative effect on the whole family when someone starts to lose that grip of and sense of reality and memory. And you have to relate to them in that moment. So the healing power of that can be tremendous. So for many, it's basically moving into a state where they dissolve their own attachment to this lifetime and even to their own body. That can be healing. It means also they can more easily spiritually process this lifetime. So that's often the more kind of spiritual and healing purpose of it. As I said, all memories are false in the way that they're filtered and you have your own bias. And what I like to do with memories is to challenge people to try to explore, try to go into different areas of the mind and memories and personality and definitions and play with it. Because when you understand, oh, this is actually not a fact, it's whatever my brain decided to store based on my DNA, based on my karma and my consciousness. And okay, this is simply showing me my own narrative, my own bias, and my own imbalances. And then I can play with it. There are many techniques that I teach where people can play with their memories and even change them. Because when we have a lot of negative memories, it has a tendency to affect us. Does it make life better? When you think of no memories being correct, not being factual, as we heal, as we start working on our true healing process, we may not be needing these negative memories anymore. We can start seeing other aspects. Instead of us in our memories being the victim, everybody had negative intentions and we were the victim. As we heal, we start expanding, which means also in our memories, we can go into them and expand. And we can start seeing that, oh, this person was acting out of pain. You can see the backstory, why this person was imbalanced and self-centered and aggressive in this moment. You can start mirroring healing and love into that situation, not just seeing yourself, but seeing just like you, they have pains too. They were just trying to do their best. They were afraid. They were acting out of what they think was necessary. All of that, we start to expand also in our memories. So it doesn't mean that what happened changed, but you see it differently, and therefore you draw a new conclusion and you get new definitions. This can happen, for instance, as we get older and we start looking at our parents and we've had enough life experience to understand, oh, okay, they were people. You start to think, oh, I'm kind of in my 40s now and they had me when they were in their 20s. And it's like, when you're in your 20s, you don't know anything. And they just tried their best. And they hadn't really done a lot of growth work and they were trying to, get their life together and live up to their parents' expectations and all of that. And they didn't know any better. So this is why they did what they did. We're able to see it in a different light. But we can also go into the memories. And, it's a very simple technique, really, just like try to replay. Because often the memories that stick with us, they're just being replayed in our mind. Whenever we focus, it's the same thing. Okay, if you try to sit down, and try now just for a moment, just breathe and relax, and close your eyes. And now, just for fun, find a childhood memory, like one that often comes back to you, one that is unresolved. And you will see in that memory, you're a child. And often the memory will just be a small snippet. Try to expand the memory. And we're doing the short version here. You can do it for as long as you want. But try to expand it. And try to expand the memory. Remember, it's in your brain. What happened before? What happened after? Expand the space. Where were you? Try to imagine, if you were in one room, imagine the other rooms. Imagine the outside. Well, expand the whole landscape. Expand the whole setting and the timeline. And then look at yourself as a child. Go in the child, like be in that perspective. Go out of it. And try to bring with you who you are today. Your level of consciousness. And your level of healing, your insight. What have you learned since then? How would you have dealt with the very same situation if it happened to you now? And bring that notion into the memory. So enter the child, but with the insight of today, and then replay and take control of it, because you can replay, you can zoom back and forth, you can rewind, you can do whatever you want. But try to bring in your wisdom and see, how would I have dealt with this differently? What can I see now that I couldn't see then? Why did the others behave the way they did? Are there aspects of this that I haven't seen before? And try to expand beyond that loop. Explore it. And also try to communicate. If there is something that was difficult, try to communicate. Try to kind of stop the movie in a way and then change it. Communicate with that person or those people and ask them, what was really going on here? Why did this happen? What were you to show me spiritually? And try to be in dialogue with these characters, because at this point, they're simply characters in your own mind, representing your unresolved karma. So try to be in that dialogue and try to be in a more mature state and bring that into the memory. And say, can I resolve this? Because the more you expand, the more you see, the more insight you will get. And just working like that, because there are no rules in how to deal with memories creatively, but just sitting in meditation and going into memories and resolving them by getting more insight, it can help you out of that loop. You can get a different understanding and you can let it go. It's also, I think, an art in itself to decide to remember positive things. Because often we remember pain. As we learn how to resolve, we can choose to start remembering what is healing, what is promoting the growth. And also go back into our memories, like, what were the signs of me being loved? How was I being supported? How did people try to love and support me? Try to see that people did their best. Change the narrative. Change what you are looking for. Because your brain will focus on the memories that will support your current narrative. And if your narrative is one of pain and suffering, that's what you will remember. If you try to dissolve that narrative and create one of love and happiness and saying to yourself, I decided to incarnate here because I wanted to grow. Everything I was exposed to, everything I've experienced was and is the universe supporting my growth, trying to prepare me for more love, to open my heart and to heal my mind and look for the memories that support that narrative. And try to decide also in the here and now what you want to remember from now on. The narrative that you're in controls how your brain interprets your memories and how it's been connected. That becomes your path. By changing the narrative, you will remember other things. So you can completely, if you want to, over time, transform how you see your memories and the definitions and conclusions that your brain operates on based on those memories. So you're more flexible than you think when it comes to this whole area of memories and information. Try to be creative and try to go beyond that assumption that this is just what it is. My memories, they were true. They're not. Be creative, have fun, understand that it's whatever will support your narrative. And then if you want to be happy, find the happy memories. Decide to look at your memories from a happy place or a loving place. It might sound simple and almost silly, but your brain is not that smart. It will respond to whatever focus you will give it. And you need to practice and train yourself. But my point is, you are free. You are extremely flexible. You are the creator of your own reality for real. So your memories do not define you. It's you who define your memories.